As we get closer to ending the year, we're also getting closer to ending our time walking through the book of Judges on Wednesday nights. And, well, we have quite the task that is coming up, and we are trying to, or we're going to be attempting to go through the last 5 chapters of the book of Judges, Judges 17 through 21, all in one week. Uh, Obviously, that's a lot to handle. So, what I decided to do was that I'm going to make a video for each chapter, and we are going to walk through each chapter in each video. Um, for the next 5 days. So today we're going to start with chapter 17, and then tomorrow 18, and then 19, 20, 21 on Tuesday of next week. And then we will do the book, just a grand overview of those 5 chapters on Wednesday of next week. If you couldn't tell, it is really cold outside, and I had hat hair, and so I just decided to keep my beanie on. Sorry about that. But again, it is really, really cold out. Here, I'm going to fix the ears though. So, with that being said, we are going to look at Judges 17, Judges 7, just chapter 17 today. And it's only 13 verses, but it really starts to paint the picture that everything is just gone completely haywire for Israel. So, just a little bit of catch up. This is directly after the end of Samson's judgeship, which ended with his death and the death of about 3,000 Philistines. Um, but there is no mention of peace. He is buried by his family, and then that's it. And it says that he judged Israel for 20 years. That's about it. And there's no mention of peace, like we've seen with the cycle before. And here, there's no mention of anything with the cycle. There's no mention uh, of the Lord, or sorry, Israel doing evil on the side of the Lord, even though that definitely happens here in chapter 17. But then there is no mention of an oppressor. There's no mention of a crying out to the Lord by Israel. There's no mention of a judge. There's no mention of a victory over the oppressor. And then there's no mention of peace. I mean, everything is falling just completely, just going crazy. And this is where it really starts off. So let's jump into Judges chapter 17, verse 1. There was a man of the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micah. And he said to his mother, "The 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, about which you uttered a curse, and also spoke it in my ears, behold, the silver is with me. I took it." And now, before we get to how she responds, just a couple things. First off, especially going walking through the book of Judges, when we see Ephraim, that should go, oh my goodness, something's going to go crazy, because so far Ephraim's not really had a very good reputation in the book of Judges. They've been known as kind of late to the party when it comes to helping out others in Israel with the oppression that's going on. They're known for bellyaching or complaining, I guess is a better word, complaining to the likes of Gideon and to Jephthah. And then, of course, you have this conflict between Jephthah and the people of Ephraim in Judges chapter 12, uh, which is shortly after the death of Jephthah's daughter. So, uh, obviously, they don't have a good track record in this book. So, knowing that should make you go, as the reader, okay, oh, here's Ephraim again. Something's going to happen. Something is going to go wrong. And well, that's very much true. And so you have this gentleman named Micah, and he has this mom, but something has happened. This mother has been telling people that 1,100 pieces of silver have been taken from her or stolen from her. She's uttered curses about it, which should make you go back to Jephthah and think, oh no, somebody is uttering curses or oaths when it comes to Jephthah without thinking. She probably uttered this curse without thinking too much about it. And, well, it turns out turns out after all of this that her son Micah is the one who stole it. And so that's not the weirdest part, though. That's not the weirdest part. It's how she responds. That is just so bizarre. At the end of verse 2, let's pick up here. And his mother said, "Blessed be my son by the Lord." What? I'm sorry. What? Uh, he literally just confessed to you that he stole all of this money, which you overreacted about and throwing out curses to who knows what. And you say, "Blessed be my son by the Lord." Now, if you're a parent, you could say, "Well, my child is finally telling the truth." Okay, I could maybe see that, but it's just very bizarre. And, well, it gets even more bizarre from there. Well, and before we get into that, the fact that she mentions the Lord here is out of left field, because there's no mention of, again, any of the cycle parts, and we have no mention of peace at the end of chapter 16 with Samson, and so it literally just comes out of left field. Now, again, maybe she's a forgiving person. That could be possible, right? No. Verse 3. And he restored the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother. Okay, good, good. And his mother said, "I dedicate the silver to the Lord from my hand for my son." Okay, okay, that's good. Yeah, giving this a teaching moment as well from a mother to a son about the importance of giving to the Lord as well as forgiveness. Okay, I'm on board with this until we read what happens next. Here's what his mother says in verse 3. "I dedicate the silver to the Lord from my hand for my son to make a carved image and a metal image. Now, therefore, I will restore it to you." What? Yeah. And this is where, again, there's just this roller coaster throughout this book where Israel seems, and yes, this is just one family, a mother and a son, but it's again yeah, a litmus test for the country as a whole. Just this absolute roller coaster that this woman is having, using the Lord's name to say, "Oh, blessed be my son," for maybe admitting to his fault and then saying, "Hey, let's give all this money to the Lord." Great start. And then she says we should make an idol out of it. What? Like, and even if it was meant to be an idol to the Lord does not ask for any idols in to be built in his name like the other gods of the ancient Near Eastern culture did, because again we are to be set apart for his name and for his glory. So, just completely, completely just so off base. And, well, he does what his mother says. Verse 4. "So when he restored the money to his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave it to the silversmith, who made it into a carved image and a metal image, and it was in the house of Micah." Now, what's interesting is the number there that's used. So we have 200 out of 1,100. So, that's the 20% of 1,000 is 200. So, a little bit less than 20% goes to this silversmith to make these idols. Where's the other 900 going? It's never said. It's never said. And we can assume that it is goes back into her pocket, rightfully so, because it's hers, or at least we would assume based on what we're given here. But still, it is a little bizarre how she is talking about giving dedicating the silver to the Lord, but yet she only puts in 200 out of the 1100. So again, something is very off. Something is very, very off with this whole entire section. And well, it continues to be because not only do they make an idol out of it, but they put that idol in the house of Micah, which then, of course, well, just goes even crazier from there. Verse 5. And the man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and household gods, and ordained one of his sons who became his priest. What? It's just everything has fallen apart. When you and I, it is so easy as followers of Jesus to get into get into a pattern where we are doing stuff day in and day out without asking the Lord for help, and that is exactly what is going on here. But even to a deeper and a more disturbing level, of course, and that is exactly what we see here. So not only does he make uh, this idol, he sets up a shrine in his house, ordains one of his sons, therefore putting his son into more idolatry himself, and then um, appointing his son to become a priest, which again is supposed to be this just beautiful and sacrificial calling that you are to have on your life. And it's just thrown out there and is an absolute mockery. Now, verse 6 makes something very clear that is true for the rest of the book and really for the whole book itself. Uh, we talked a little bit about this with Samson because he did things because they were right in his eyes. Well, that was just one person, and now we see this in a countrywide level because of verse 6. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Whew, a couple things here. First off, when it's saying that there's no king in Israel, yes, that is definitely foreshadowing the book of First Samuel, well, the book of Samuel, period, and then the book of Kings, and then the book of Chronicles, but specifically First Samuel with King Saul and then King David, but or eventually King David. But that I think is definitely part of it. I think, though, the biggest part about this statement is that the Lord is no longer king in Israel. Yes, the Lord knew that there was ultimately going to be kings in Israel. He actually mentions this through the words of Moses in the book of Deuteronomy before any kings show up in Israel's history. So, you could look at that later on. But here it is, I think that is absolutely what you are to think of when it comes to this. Now, later on, obviously, we see why they want a king because Israel wants a king to look like the other countries. But the reason, again, is because they no longer see the Lord as king and their only king. And, well, that really is seen here. And then the second part, everyone did what was right in his own eyes. All sense of spiritual life or spiritual morality in Israel at this point is gone. It's gone. It's just there are pockets here and there, like Micah's mother talking about the Lord and talking about dedicating the money to the Lord. There are pockets of talk about the Lord, but as we go through 17 through 21, it's interesting to see how you really don't see the Lord moving. You see his name mentioned, but you don't see him moving very often in these chapters. And the reason why is because these chapters are the absolute point of this is what happens if you and I are left to our own devices. And we believe that we believe basically what and do what is right in our own eyes. And that is a very troubling thought. Well, with that being said, that kind of foreshadows what's going to happen in 18 through 21 because there are some disturbing things in this section to end the book in 18 through 21. But we're not done yet. Verse 7. Now there was a young man of Bethlehem in Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he sojourned there. All right. What's interesting about this Levite is that he is only mentioned for his heritage. He's only mentioned as the Levite. Uh, and that's basically it. I mean, there's no name, there's no nothing, and that should make you go, okay, what was a Levite supposed to be? Going all the way back to the books of the law, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, and Levites were supposed to be set apart from the rest of Israel and called specially to serving in the tabernacle at the time of Moses, and then eventually in the temple. Uh, but here, that doesn't seem to be the case. This is just a random Levite, and he's sojourning with um, in this region. And that's all we see. Now, it is, of course, interesting that Bethlehem is brought up because of the connection with Jesus. Definitely get that. And then it's interesting, too, to see that he's from the family of Judah. And some would think, oh, so he's in Jesus' line. Maybe, but I don't think so. I think if he was in the line of Jesus and David as well, I think that would have been mentioned here. And so, me personally, I don't see that being said. I do believe that he's in the family of Judah, but is he in the direct line of King David and then eventually Jesus? I don't think so. But still, interesting to see. Verse 8. And the man departed from the town of Bethlehem in Judah to sojourn where he could find a place. And again, find a place to do what, though? There's no mention of what he does. Again, it's just this random guy who happens to be in the line, who happens to be a Levite, and yet he's in the family of Judah. That's interesting as well. So he's from both the line of Levi and Judah. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's no mention of what he does, which I think is very, very interesting. Uh, he could find a place. Interesting way to say that. Verse 8. And as he journeyed, he came to the hill country of Ephraim to the house of Micah. And Micah said to him, where do you come from? And he said to him, I'm a Levite of Bethlehem in Judah, and I'm going to sojourn where I may find a place. Again, with Micah, if he had the presence of mind, knowing that he is both from the line of Judah and Levi, should have made Micah go, oh, maybe there's a little bit to the story here. I'd really like to know who this guy is, what he does. And he doesn't, basically, he doesn't ask any questions whatsoever. And again, that line, where I may find a place, to do what? Verse 10. Well, there's no questions from Micah. So in verse 10, he just says to him, and Micah said to him, stay with me and be to me a father and a priest, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year and a suit of clothes and your living. And the Levite went in. Oh my goodness. So not only does Micah enlist his son to be a priest to this image that he has made up with money from his mother that he stole, uh, but now he is basically wanting to be mentored by a complete stranger who is just saying, "I want to find a place." It's very bizarre. Obviously, the part about giving him a what appears to be a salary and then clothes and helping him, that is a good thing. That can be a very, very good thing. Uh, but again, it's the idea that he's a complete stranger. There's no really information on him. That's where you go, something's up. Um, and of course, the Levi accepts to end verse 10. Of course he would, because again, he's trying to find a place. Verse 11. And the Levite was content to dwell with the man, and the young man became to him like one of his sons. And Micah ordained the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and was in the house of Micah. Then Micah said, now I know that the Lord will prosper me, because I have a Levite as priest. All right, there's a lot to take in. So Micah ordains this Levite, which could somebody outside of the tribe of Levi ordain another Levi, or ordain a Levite? Yes, technically, maybe, uh, but it's typically definitely not done that way. Moses set up the Levitical priesthood to be very much a Levite to a Levite to a Levite to a Levite. And so Levites are to ordain other Levites for this calling. And again, as we see from Micah, he is uh, a man of the hill country of Ephraim. Most likely, then, that means he is an Ephraimite. Now, yes, they're technically all from Israel, but does Micah have the authority to ordain this guy uh, to be a priest? No. I do not think he has that right. Not only did he not have that right with his son, but he specifically does not have that right with a Levitical priest. Um, but again, the guy takes the offer, becomes this priest, and this line is so sad, but also, again, kind of funny to read. Uh, now I know that the Lord will prosper me because I have a Levite as priest. Oh, you are just so missing the point, Micah. Uh, what Micah is really getting at here is he is trying to get favor with the Lord by doing things instead of believing and trusting in him. Yes, he knows about him. Micah knows about the Lord, but he doesn't actually believe and trust in him as his only true Lord. Because if he did, then when his mother says, "Hey, take this money and go and make a metal image or a carved image," Micah should have said immediately, without hesitation, that is wrong. That is wrong of the based off the law that the Lord gave to Moses, that then Moses gave to us. That's how immediately should have been his response, but it wasn't. Why? Because he doesn't actually truly believe that the Lord is the Lord. And so, because of that, he has no problem with thinking that because he has a Levite as a priest, just like they did, with Aaron and Moses back in the books of the law. Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, just because he knows that history, he thinks, okay, I'm good. And a lot of times, I think in the Christian life, we sometimes get trapped by this in thinking, okay, I've read my Bible today, I'm good. I prayed today, I'm good. I've talked to my neighbor about how they're doing, I'm good. I helped out with VBS. I helped out with children's ministry. I helped out with whatever your church is doing recently. I'm good. Those are very, very good things in themselves. No doubt about it. However, if you do not believe that Jesus is Lord, then all of those things are just acts. That's it. They are just stuff to do and just stuff to buy time, take your take your mind off of things that are going on. That's really all it boils down to. There is no relationship with the Lord there, just like Micah does not have a relationship with the Lord here. And just like Israel's really not going to have a relationship with the Lord at all in 17 through 21 of chapter 17 through 21 of this book. And it really sets the precedent for the rest of the book, of the end of this book. And we are going into a very, very dark place with not just in the history of Israel, but just the history of those that know who the Lord is and should know who the Lord is, but yet they don't believe and trust in the Lord as Lord. And so they're just going through motions. And, well, sadly, it doesn't really help at all with anything. It creates a lot of chaos in its stead. And that is exactly where we are going to go tomorrow with the Levite and with this idol of Micah. So we will get into Judges 18. We're going to walk through that chapter tomorrow. But hopefully, this was an interesting walkthrough of Judges chapter 17, and you can watch this whenever you would like as we get ready to then just do a general overview of Judges 17 through 21 well, next week on Wednesday. So, with that being said, thanks for spending a little bit of time with me today as we travel through Judges 17, setting up just kind of the chaos that is going to be happening uh, basically continuously throughout the rest of the book of Judges. But thanks for spending time with me today. I will see you tomorrow with Judges 18. Thanks.